A very good evening to you and welcome to Rwanda Television News with me, Sam Kalisa.
And I'm Fiona Babazi.
Kicking off here in Rwanda this afternoon, President Paul Kagame alongside co-chair Carol Slim, co-vice chairs Audrey Azoulay and Holin Zhao chaired the virtual Broadband Commission spring meeting under the theme Building an Inclusive Post-COVID-19 Digital Future. Rwanda's president pointed out that participants that the pandemic has brought some global important issues to the forefront when it comes to the use of technology.
Broadband usage has exploded during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, as life has increasingly migrated online, the contrast between the digital haves and have-nots is even more blatant. This is particularly true for education. With the physical classrooms closed, many students have been unable to join virtual classrooms. Some learners have missed an entire year of schooling. At the same time, as children spend more time online, we must redouble efforts to ensure they are kept safe. That's why the Broadband Commission's COVID-19 Agenda for Action focuses on 3 points: resilient connectivity, affordable access, and online safety. With the deployment of vaccines in many countries, the end of the COVID-19 pandemic is in sight.
Now on Monday, Prime Minister Dr. Edward Ngirente represented Rwanda at the farewell ceremony of President Dr. John Pombe Magufuli, who died last week of a heart attack. In his address, Dr. Ngirente stressed that Rwanda continues to support Tanzania in these difficult times.
On behalf of His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, and on behalf of people and the government of the Republic of Rwanda, I would like to extend our sincere condolences and deepest sympathy to the people and the government of the United Republic of Tanzania for the loss of the patriotic leader, His Excellency Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli. The government of Rwanda has had a privilege of working closely with His Excellency Magufuli, not only as an East African community integration champion, but also as a great contributor to strengthening the Rwanda-Tanzania bilateral relations. His legacy will always be remembered.
Now, the last farewell to the late Dr. John Pombe Magufuli was attended by 10 African heads of state and various other dignitaries. They say that the late President John Pombe Magufuli will never be forgotten. Now, the DRC President Felix Tshisekedi, who is the current chairperson of the African Union, said Dr. Magufuli was in prayers and that Congo was praying for him and solidarity with Tanzania. Now, on his part, President Filipe Nyusi of Mozambique said that President Magufuli will always be in the hearts of many South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said that the late President Magufuli was a true patriot. He added that his country started teaching Kiswahili because of President Magufuli's efforts to promote the language. The funeral ceremony at Dodoma of President John Pombe Magufuli, and the body will be taken to Zanzibar, Mwanza, and then Chato in northern Tanzania before his final burial rites. He will be buried on the 25th of this month. Now, to discuss more on this, we're joined by Mr. Simon, who is in Tanzania. He is in Rwanda and living in Tanzania, and he will be painting to us a picture of what it was like during this day. Good evening, Simon, if you could hear me.
Good evening, Fiona. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Hope you're keeping well and safe. Yes, so please describe to us the mood that was today in Dodoma as they took the late President John Pombe Magufuli's body for the people in Dodoma to see it.
Today was a day. The people were crying as usual since they lost a lovely president. So it was not easy day to think about.
Absolutely. Now, we have seen a lot of people camp out and, of course, coming out in large numbers, and we've had reports of stampedes, of lots of Tanzanians who have fainted during these particular rites as they bid farewell to the late president. How does this describe him in person, and how is he really perceived on ground by the Tanzanians?
Mr. President Magufuli has been a focused president and changed a lot of things in Tanzania since he comes in power. He had a very strong project to Tanzania, and he did a lot of tangible things which they still remember, and they wish he could continue to this focus in development of Tanzania. So that's why now they don't believe that he's not alive again.
Absolutely. Now, the president, who is the current president, of course, people fondly call her Mama Suluhu Hassan, today warned people and said, I am not the weak link, I am not a weak link as we continue to push Tanzania. What, in your opinion, does this mean? And do you think that people will now embrace her and finally say that she is the president of the Tanzanian Republic?
It's the first time Tanzania to have a woman president. So now they are wondering if she will be able or not. But if you can see there is a prepared way already by Magufuli. So if she will follow the way he was walking, but also even herself, I can't say that she's not able. Even herself now, she already got those quotes about her, but she's able, and she can, and she will. She will do as Magufuli did. She will walk in the same way, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Simon, for making time to be this today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Indeed, may he so rest in peace.
Absolutely, Sam. They called him the Pan-Africanist, the strong Pan-African leader of East African nation. And indeed, may his soul rest in peace.
Indeed. And of course, moving ahead, more than 300 residents in Nyanza district are asking for compensation for the land they were asked to vacate more than 10 years ago or be allowed to return to it. They say that they were promised compensation after it was announced that the land was to become part of the national park.
The question is located up on a hill, and the residents say they were asked to cease doing any activities on it, such as farming, because the government had other plans for it. And last year, after waiting in vain for more than a decade for their compensation, decided to encroach on it and plant some crops. That is the reason you see that portion has beans planted on it. Last year, we decided to plant crops there because we were hungry. They say they are tired of waiting for the compensation that was promised to them. Our problem is that we have waited for more than 10 years. They came and decided to fence off our land without first consulting us, and planted other types of trees there, forbidding us from going there again. They uprooted my trees, and everybody knows that they belong to me. They did not give me anything for those trees, claiming the land was to become part of a national park, saying that all that was required then was the budget. That as far back as the time of Rudahigwa, it was meant to be a park. I have since been waiting indefinitely for compensation. The land was indeed put aside by King Mutara III Rutahigwa for hunting purposes, and decades later it was fenced off by the government. We interviewed the current mayor of Nyanza district on the matter, and this is what he had to say. Some local residents over time started settling there illegally. So what we are doing now is working with the Rwanda Forestry Authority and the Rwanda Land Management and Use Authority to determine how all those people who are claiming compensation got their plots to begin with. And anyone who got it legally will be compensated. By the end of this year, everything will be clear. The mayor also explained that the land had been reserved as property belonging to the government, and there are no plans to make it a national park, as some may think. The local residents say they registered the plots they claim to be theirs under their names and have deeds for them.
Rwanda Basic Education Board REB now estimates that 3%, which is an equivalent to 1,516 of the teachers, have not returned to work after the schools reopen. Now, currently, there is a search for others to replace them. However, school principals say it requires an increase in the number of hours for teachers to teach weekly so that they can close this particular gap.
Touring different schools, some of them have shortage of teachers. School principals say some teachers have been promoted, others went to teach in private schools, and others started their own businesses.
4 of our teachers left. They were teaching primary and were promoted to teach secondary school. After schools reopened, 2 of them went to teach in private schools because that's where they get a bigger salary.
All our primary school teachers returned, and the ones we had requested for came. The 2 secondary school teachers we expected didn't come, the one of history and the one of biology. Some of the teachers did not come at GS Muyanje due to a long journey. 2 out of the 3 teachers admitted here came. Teachers that stayed at these schools tried to cover the gaps left by the ones that did not return. It's difficult, but as the school administration, we sit with other teachers and request them to work extra hours. But we don't force them because our profession requires sacrifice. Normally, a teacher teaches 48 hours a week, and we request them to add 6 more hours. When 12 teachers out of the 16 add those extra hours, the whole gap is covered. Of the more than 24,000 teachers hired at the end of last year, some did not take up their jobs, while others have resigned for various reasons. These are some of whom we talked to. It resulted from the way they were admitted. Sometimes a teacher plans to teach in the district they live in. Let's say you've applied to teach in Rusizi district, but they admit you to teach in Musanze district. Yet you have to live near your family. In the end, you fear to work for only transport costs. It's not in education sector only. If things are not going well, you change and do other things. Plus, a person might have more than one talent. Today, I might be a teacher, but change to being a leader or a businessman, depending on the life I want to live. The Director General of the Rwanda Basic Education Board, Dr. Nelson Mbarushimana, says 1,516 teachers are out of their work. It's 3%. During this COVID-19 pandemic, some teachers looked for other jobs, or even others moved to different schools. The plan is there, as we are yet to start the phase 4 of putting teachers in positions and cover the gap of those teachers that left their jobs. In this week, we will position some teachers on the waiting list to cover the gap. REB is also planning to start using a technology system called the Teacher Management Information System, which is now at 95% completion. It will be used to manage teachers, both in identifying those that are still working and replacing them, and will go into effect in the first week of April.
Your software
the software will help us to monitor schools, know the number of teachers we have, and their qualifications. We already have the information, but this time it will be put into the system where you can easily access it. That's where recruiting teachers will be done from. By November 2020, there were 63,280 teachers in Rwanda, after which 21,709 new teachers were added, who should be summing up to 84,989 teachers employed in primary and secondary schools. Now, gas users in the country are lamenting on the continued increase of gas prices. The Rwanda Utility Regulatory Authority, RURA, says it is closely monitoring the situation, and the solution for this will soon be found. Jed Umwali has the story.
The 7-year government plan that began in 2017 aims at conserving forests. To achieve this, Rwandans are encouraged to reduce the use of firewood and materials alike.
We will monitor the availability of gas as well as the prices. The price of firewood as well as charcoal is rising as well. We have seen that people have considered switching to firewood. We can see that gas is used a lot in town, and firewood or charcoal is used in the villages.
The Rwanda Energy Group, REG, says measures have been taken to bring other fuels, including gas, closer to the people of Rwanda.
Our figures indicate that at least 28% of all households in Kigali use gas, and the figure is at 5% in all urban areas countrywide. So generally, the use of gas is increasing in towns far more than it is in rural areas.
The statistics for the program seem promising. However, gas users say they may return to coal if prices continue to increase as seen in the last 3 months. We had just gotten used to the prices. We would usually buy it at 6,000 Rwanda francs, but I recently bought it at 8,000 Rwanda francs, and that's a problem. Gas traders approve of the increase in gas and point out that the results come from the Rural Regulatory Framework that sets prices along with other petroleum products.
When the controls are good, it reduces the stress on the relationship between us and customers. No one ignores the fact that there are traders who would benefit from it as well. I feel that the government has stepped in and set the prices as measure to ensure transparency.
RURA is aware of the issue and is studying on whether it will start setting gas prices. Only the government will have a final solution.
We've been examining the issue and will have made a decision by the end of this month on whether or not to put gas prices in place. The government is also going to construct a large gas storage facility that will be able to hold 17 million kilograms that will help us keep prices stable.
Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority, RURA, cites rising prices as a result of the international gas price, rising from being bought at $380 per ton to $595 per ton. In December 2020, in the city of Kigali, a 6-kilogram cylinder of gas was bought at 6,000 Rwanda francs, but it now costs more than 7,500 to 8,000 Rwanda francs. A 12-kilogram cylinder of gas, usually bought at 12,000 Rwanda francs, now costs up to 15,000 Rwanda francs, while a 20-kilogram cylinder of gas, usually bought at 20,000 Rwanda francs, costs up to 25,000 Rwanda francs. Umngari Jade, RTV News.
Well, thank you, Mwali Jade, for that story. Now, Rwanda has joined the rest of the world in marking the International World Water Day, and the Rwanda Water Resources Board is urging Rwandans to conserve our natural water resources. Gabi Mufunyi with the details.
Residents say that they are aware and understand the importance of water in their daily lives, and they encourage others to do the same.
Water is really important. When you do not have water, you can do nothing.
One thing is that there are some people who do not value water. For instance, when it rains, there are some people that do not collect and use that water. What I would say to people is that wastage of water is violating the health law in Rwanda, because water is the source of life and water is a government investment project. We should be conserving the water because it is good for us.
90% of the water Rwandans use comes from the rain, with no major rivers flowing into the country from its neighbors. 95% of the rainwater makes its ways to rivers and lakes, from which fresh water is used for daily life and is stored in dams. There are about 50 dams in the country that can store up to 75 million cubic meters. The Director General of the Rwanda Water Resources Board, Gabonzi Prime, urges everyone to conserve the natural water resources in the country.
There are activities that we should prioritize, like terrace farming, planting trees that help to fight soil erosion. We should not waste water, because doing so is wasting a precious natural resource. All Rwandans should encourage one another to conserve our natural water resources, because failure to do so will have a negative effect on all of us. We should use water that we need and store the rest aside for later use. Following these will help conserve our natural water resources.
According to the Water Resources Board, at least 78% of the infrastructure is water-related, which means that if water infrastructure is not properly maintained, it will deteriorate socially and economically. There are currently at least 2.2 billion people worldwide that are affected by water shortages. Gabi Muvunyi for RTV.
On behalf of the entire news team that made this news possible, thank you very much for being with us. As usual, my name is Fiona Mbabazi.
And mine is Sam Kalisa. Please do remember that COVID-19 is still out there. Please do consider putting in place all the measures put in place, of course, to protect us against COVID-19. And yes, together,
we can flatten the curve. Have yourselves a lovely evening, a good and blessed, fruitful week ahead.